Hi all, welcome to this fabulous panel of Spectra. Today we have a powerful panel, and the topic that we are going to talk about is really an interesting one because everyone is talking about agentic AI, but it will make sense to understand that how the entire GTM is orchestrated around agentic AI, right? Because AI agents are still like instruments in a symphony, but you need to have a broader GTM strategy, which I call the orchestration, in order to ensure that there is a powerful impact and value created for the organizations and for our clients. So we'll delve into this, we'll discuss this in a powerful yet crisp manner through this strong panel that we have. And before I actually delve into the topic itself, I feel that because a lot of audience who are watching us today will also have some young leaders, some young professionals. So before we delve into the topic itself, I want to ask that what is that one skill that you want young leaders, young professionals to actually master to become successful specifically in the AI era? So maybe, Kapil, can we start with you? What are your thoughts?
Sure, Rishi. I mean, very timely question. See, we hire a lot of interns, we hire a lot of fresh graduates, and one message from me to them is think about how can you improve your cognitive throughput, because more and more I feel in the age of AI, right, people are getting measured by the kind of output they create and how quickly they create it. So I think that's my message to them. Deliver consistently and try to deliver it at an elite level, no matter what your position or designation.
Thanks, Kapil. Coming to Deepak. Deepak, what is your view?
Sure, thanks. I think this is something that I keep talking to my leaders. Unlearn everything that you've learned, right? And I say that all of us, in fact, today are freshers. So become a fresher, have a curiosity, learn new things, and unlearn everything that you've learned. That's the only one message that I give them. Experience doesn't matter. What you do with your tools is what matters.
Thanks, Deepak. Vinay, what are your thoughts?
Hi, Rishi, thanks. So, timely question, especially because of all the role dilutioning happening everywhere, where people are, you're getting younger and younger people playing more important roles. The point I want to bring back is something which might sound cliched, but this is essentially going back to understanding the problem statement correctly. The ceiling has been broken in terms of execution using all our new age tools. We are doing it a lot faster, but we were able to code before, we were able to deploy before. Unless you understand the problem statement, what is the gap you're bridging, what is the value add you're making, it's not going to serve any purpose. So go back and make sure you understand the problem statement properly.
Thanks, Vinay. Prakash, coming to you, what are your thoughts on this?
Sure, Rishi. Like the other panel members have mentioned, I will just add what exclusive skills that are required. So if you talk about currently in the agentic AI era, personally, I encourage young people, young professionals who are aspiring to make a career here in this area to build critical thinking skills, domain expertise, and AI literacy. So the real opportunity for them is not in competing with the AI, but in learning how to guide it, validate its outputs, how to apply to solve meaningful business problems. So the future, if you look at those who combine human judgment with AI capabilities, they will be the leaders of the future. So they have a great opportunity here, the young people. If they can focus on this, then they are going to be the leaders of the future.
Thank you, Prakash. So here is it. I think industry experts, right, with their experience, sharing what can really work for the young professionals. And if I can just add, I really want young professionals to take up storytelling and selling, because at the end, that's a core skill which will help you in any professional, in fact, even in your personal life, right? So great. I think that was a very good summary. Now let's delve into the topic. And now that we have a warm-up, I want to start with a rapid fire, because usually we end with it. But I think let's start with a rapid fire, and I'll have a question for each one of you, and you'll have just 30 seconds to try and answer it, right? So maybe Kapil will start with you, if that's okay.
Sure.
And the first question is, we keep on going to the market, right? But what is the number one objection you hear while selling an agentic AI solution to an organization?
That's a great question. So, see, first of all, answer is somewhat also embedded in the word legacy, right? Most of the legacy organizations, if you look at it, they are built for humans, not for agents, right? And if you look at it, right, the humans are actually the ones who are compensating for broken processes. They're the ones who are navigating the siloed systems through tribal knowledge, right? And all this is sort of, to sort of compensate for those inadequacies in their system, right? So what you will hear often is, right, that the number one concern, sometimes it could be security, hallucination, but what I've often come across is that trust. Do I trust the agent when it's deployed in my environment, right? And obviously we know that agents cannot function in an environment where things are structurally broken. There are fragmented systems, data silos are there. There are not documented, policies. So obviously agents are bound to fail, right, in such an environment. So the question really becomes, right, how do you sort of deal with these kind of hard truths and guide these kind of organizations to, adopt or embrace agentic AI? And in my view, the best way to sort of look at these kind of objections, especially the trust-oriented objection, is to tell the enterprise executives that, don't ask about what agents can do for you. You should, in fact, think about what does your enterprise need to do so that these agents become effective in your environment, right? And in my view, that sort of shifts the question from technology to transformation, which essentially means redesign your entire work and how it gets done, right? Not just automate the surface of it. So I think that's how we tackle this objection. Hope that sort of brings some clarity into this question.
Yeah. Thanks, Kapil. So basically what you're saying is address trust, not by asking what you want to do from agent, but try to map it to organization's objective. Great. Deepak, now coming to you, right? In the entire GTM strategy, what is that one task that AI agent should never do in the sales cycle? This is your experience.
Sure. I think while what Kapil was also talking about, while there is a general trend of leapfrogging in AI, there is also another thing which is saying is what your AI or agentic AI should not do, right? And within the sales fraternity, one thing has always, I mean, if you talk to any salesperson, one thing they'll say is customers buy from people. They buy from trust, commitment that you've made, how much of the business that you've understood, and all those human connects that you establish is a bigger part of selling rather than just, capability selling or accelerator selling and so on, right? So this is one part that I would not, which is essentially the customer relationship building and nurturing, which according to me, you should not. I mean, obviously AI can do a lot of things, but this is one area which I think the humans should hold it, because the other aspect too also is customer doesn't know what they want a lot of times, right? And that's where AI can bring in a lot of these data from various secondary research, but one thing that it cannot do is to kind of unearth unknowns and unset things. And this is one thing that I will not allow AI agent to kind of figure out.
Thank you, Deepak. And in a way, it ties down to what Kapil just mentioned, right? That trust is the question which is being asked, how you take care of. And that is one thing you are precisely saying, that building trust, taking care of customer nurturing and relationship is something which, as of now, humans should be in control. Great. Vinay, if I can come to you right now, this is your experience. What do you think is the gold standard metrics for measuring an AI agent's performance, specifically when we are trying to sell it to an enterprise?
So first, I'll just quickly qualify and say what is gold today is not gold tomorrow. That's what we've been seeing, right? But what we have today, I completely agree with Kapil and the others about the trust part. So let's assume that that's a given, right? The trust part has to be there. I'll just extend it slightly by saying it has to be the trust between the agents being deployed and the organization deploying it. Because even customers know that that can sometimes go down, and it's how quickly we can, back that up. But I think finally, for me, the gold standard, and if there's a, very scientific way of measuring it, it will be great. is that because we are working a lot with legacy organizations, the gold standard will be the minimum amount of disruption with maximum amount of value. Change is something which is always, there, and it's being pushed back against for multiple reasons. And if we can seamlessly bring this into the process and at the same time start adding value, that's where I think the gold standard definition will have to sit right now.
Thanks, Vinay. And I think you started on the right front, right? With the gold prices fluctuating now so much. Absolutely. What is gold standard today might not be there, but thank you for your response.
Rishi, I just wanted like a 10-second
Sure.
add on to what Vinay just said, right? Change management, I believe that's also one of the major hurdles, because what you'll often see, there is big incentive misalignment. You talk to compliance, they want certainty. You talk to IT, they want speed. Or stability, right? You talk to finance, they want ROI. So how do you get all these three parties on the same page to, sort of implement any kind of agentic AI? So change management, I feel, is equally important.
Absolutely, Kapil. Thanks for your input. Now coming to Prakash, right? Prakash, you have a pretty strong and relevant experience across. Now, but if you specifically want to check, right, at what is a bit harder? Is it like training an AI agent to sell, or training a salesperson to use an AI agent? And this is related to what just Kapil mentioned, right? Change management becomes so much critical. So based on your experience, what do you think is a bit more harder?
It's a great question. If I had to choose, right, between these two options you had given, I would say training a salesperson to consistently and enthusiastically use an AI agent is harder than training the agent itself. See, technology agents can be configured in weeks or months. Training an agent is a pure technical work. This is, even though it's substantial work, it is structured and repeatable. It can be done, not a challenge. Whereas the behavioral adoption of for the salesperson, right, it often takes months, requires leadership, sponsorship, coaching, incentive alignment. So these salespeople must change their behavior, and behavior change is inherently more difficult. So that's why I feel that way. So to summarize, I would say teaching AI to sell is a technical problem. Teaching sellers to trust AI is a human problem. And always human problems are most harder.
Thanks, Prakash. I think it's a valuable learning for all of us, everyone who's watching, right? That the human problem is a bit more difficult to tackle. So I would say, though it was a rapid fire, but the kind of knowledge experience we have, we took some more time to it. So we'll just try and ensure that the next question that will come your way, you take a bit less time, so that we are able to overall comply with the total time allotted to us. Right? And Deepak, this time I want to start with you, because you just now mentioned that how specifically one needs to nurture a particular relationship, right, in selling, right? So can you suggest that how are you and your team using agents to find, nurture, and close the leads, right, to whom actually you are then maybe trying to sell an agentic AI solution? So how is it actually being used within the organization, your team?
Sure, I think that's a great question again. And as any process or sales also has an operation part of it, and there is a human part of it, right? And I think, like so many of us have talked about it, which part of the overall value chain in the process you give it to AI and what you actually give it to a human is one of the most trickiest parts, because it's very easy to just pick up, and give it to an agent, and that salesperson just does nothing. There are also cases like that, right? Because you don't want to give that and give it to an agent to do everything, right? So if you look at the overall life cycle, finding or researching rather that, right? That's where AI, which is part of the operations, the sales operations, that I think a lot of it can be given to the AI, which is analyzing your, the market signals, buying patterns, technology stack, pain points, roadmap. There is a bunch of things that you can actually prepare before you even go to meet the customer, right? That's a lot of it operation based and can be a good preparation toolkit for a salesperson. From a nurture side, this is where your personalized instincts comes up, and along with marketing, outreaches and personalized outreaches, right? And some of the sentiment analysis that you can add, like for example, if a customer is talking in an event, you can essentially pick up those sentiments also and also add to your overall sales cycle, right? So that becomes a nurture part of it, because that could be a combination of a human and an AI data that you can essentially augment your entire nurture cycle. And the last is close cycle, is essentially how do you make it very personalized recommendations, give some risk analysis of the overall proposal, do some modeling, financial modeling, and give a cost-benefit analysis. All that could be a great closing cycle for them. So essentially, a summary, give the operational intelligence to the AI and keep the human, intelligence with yourself. And that's the, if you can build your sales cycle accordingly, I think you can essentially reap your outcomes.
Thanks, Deepak. So it seems you're already leveraging a lot of it within your sales ops part, right? So great. And you're still
early stages. Yeah. Still early stages, but yeah, we started the journey.
Great. Thanks, Deepak. Now, Kapil, something that you said earlier, right? That trust is a key objection which still comes. Now, if I just want to maybe deep dive a bit into it, that how do you convince your clients to trust, right? Specifically autonomous agents, because one is regarding the output, but there is whole brand and reputation angle aligned to it, right? So how are you able to tackle that particular hurdle in conversations?
A great question again. So I think we need to first understand, like, how does this agent really become your brand representative, right? So I can probably give maybe a short example. Specifically, let's say some agent is trying to do a claim settlement for you end to end, right? In the new age insurance companies. So the way that that agent sort of handles your entire request, right, and how quickly it closes, it sort of becomes your brand representative in that sense, right? Now, what customers are really worried about is, in my view, at least two things. One is, are you sort of in control as the agent is executing that transaction? And secondly, whether you're within compliance or not, right? So with these two factors can really erode your customer trust very quickly if things go south, right? And in specifically areas like that we operate in insurance or banking, this reputational risk can even become an existential risk, right? Given the regulatory control, right? So I think the question in my mind, right, in my mind when I'm sort of dealing with this kind of a questions is more around, instead of telling the customer about autonomous agent, can I sort of spin the narrative more on, building a digital worker in a very controlled environment, an environment, where things don't go haywire, right? So the way to do that also is to think about, by talking not autonomy on day one, right? Take a conversation in a direction where you're talking more about graduated autonomy, right? Where you're slowly saying that, from day one, I'm not going to build an autonomous agent, but what I'm going to give you is like a recommender system, right? Start with that. Then slowly you can say that, can I bring human in the loop to approve any kind of transactions by my agent, right? And that way, I think customers are becoming more and more comfortable with, having AI. Because as and when you elevate this kind of complexity, sometimes you also start exposing the vulnerability in your system, and then you start fixing them over time, right? So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that, properly governed agents actually, bolster your brand and reduce your brand risk, in fact, which can be very counterintuitive. But if you put the narrative like this, it sort of plays to your advantage. And why I say that, because, human operations are inconsistent. Humans sometimes violate the processes. They even sometimes forget the policies, right? But if you have well-governed agents, this entire thing goes off, and then in fact it can even bolster your brand, right? So I think that those are my some of my thoughts around, how can you convince a customer around, building agentic AI or implementing agentic AI in their system.
Yeah, absolutely, Kapil. I think ensuring that overall the control and the compliance part is well managed and governed. Great. Now, Prakash, coming to your overall experience, right? Because you have worked in different industries, be it aerospace, rail. What has been your experience, right, taking agentic AI solutions to different clients? Can you maybe share the top two learnings basis your interactions?
Thank you, Rishi. It's definitely I would be happy to share this my insights on based on my experience. So even though it is two different sectors, right? When we approach for agentic AI solutions, not much difference in the approach that we take it to them. Even though the sectors are part of transportation BU, however, a lot of differences. Aero is different and rail is different in terms of regulatory compliance and other things. So what I would suggest is, we have a, go-to-market cycle that we generally use when we take our agentic AI solutions to these customers in across Aero and rail. So generally, it is like taking any enterprise technology, sales. Only thing is here we are talking about additional steps around trust, governance, proving the business value. All these become very paramount here. Right. So I don't want to, due to the sparsity of time, I would just talk a few points. Like we have a 9-point rule or a plan that we use for taking to GTM activities across Aero and rail. It all starts with identifying the use cases, the right ones, defining the ROI, building the trust, generating the demand, discovering the needs of the customers, doing a demo, small demos to showcase and build some confidence, bring confidence into the customer, then pilot or POC as required, which will show some value addition, proof of value, and then closure, and you do a delivery, and then you show the value in the delivery, and then you expand and do the same thing for other use cases. So this is the model that we have taken, and a lot of times we are focusing on COE model. So to rail and Aero customers, so we have a COE model where this becomes cyclical, will be followed across multiple use cases. So that is the approach that we are taking when we deal with Aero and rail customers, when we take agentic AI solutions. So to answer quickly summarize, there is not much difference in the way we approach. The 9-point rule becomes the same. Yeah, it's kind of the same. That's the answer. But if you talk about other sectors, yes, there could be changes. But anyway, since you asked about these two sectors, I would say it's kind of the same.
Okay, thanks, Prakash. Now, Vinay, I want to touch upon one very important element, right? Because there can't be a GTM without thinking about the partners and ecosystem. We know that today all the hyperscalers are trying to come up with their own agentic AI solutions, right? And a lot of organizations are also, your organization is also trying to tackle it. So how do you handle or manage it? Is it like a complement or a competition, right, for you, for all of us, in fact? So what are your thoughts around it?
So I'll straight off the bat, I'll reject the binary. That partner or competitor question was true about a year and a half, year ago, or even at best 2 years ago, right? Co-sell worked, they brought their technology, we had domain depth, we knew the clients, we went to them and so on, and it worked. But now all the hyperscalers are really moving up, the stack. You've got Azure, AWS, GCP, you just name them. They are already building verticalized agent solutions. Every day you have news that something is coming up in the SaaS space. SaaS is dead. Specific industry solutions are coming out, and that implementation layer where most of us are playing in, that has started shrinking in a very big way, and that has started compressing to the point that the partner narrative is starting to go out of the window. Right now, the real disruption is not just from these hyperscalers. You've got all these players like Anthropic, which is pushing aggressively into enterprise. They're saying the same topic we are talking so much about, right? The trust factor. They're saying trust first and so on. Then you've got things like Mistral, which are very popular in Europe. You've got Salesforce, which has now opened up everything into the organization, and then you have Llama, which is giving you a very credible open source option. But the thing is, I'm sure everybody in India who's there will appreciate this, right? This is like how Swiggy and Zomato ran delivery services, and then after getting data after a couple of years, they started building their own solution, right? It's no more going to be that they're just going to sit around and help us to sell. So the only question here is, if in that implementation layer you're building something unique and you have a moat, then and the customers still trust you, you will still go in that partnership mode. Otherwise, we are straight off heading into the whole competitor mode as well.
Thanks, Vinay, and thanks for highlighting it's no longer a binary. It has to be carved out, right, on the specific situation. So great, I think. Thank you all for sharing the insights. And I just want to maybe take a final couple of minutes and get your view on one question, right? That what do you think, which kind of an organization will be a biggest GTM winner of 2027, right? What will be that organization doing same or different? What is your view on it? Maybe we'll go with the Deepak, followed by Kapil, then Prakash and Vinay, and let's just take 20 seconds to answer this final one. So Deepak.
Sure. I think for me, a GTM organization is somebody who is human-led, human trust-led. Let me change a little bit. Human trust-led with using the scale of AI for execution, right? For, as I said, operational intelligence versus the AI used, human used for human touch and then making decisions, and which is able to use the entire intelligence in the entire value chain, right? The intelligence comes through each of the deals, each of these conversations, and brings it back to the value chain, and you're able to feed it back to the AI engine, right? That's my GTM organization for the future.
Thanks, Deepak. Kapil?
Yeah, I think it's what is really important for any GTM organization to succeed, in my view, is to understand the starting point of the organization. So you earlier asked me about legacy, right? Now that's a very different starting point compared to somebody who has already matured to a different level of maturity curve. So I think understanding the starting point and then accordingly framing that narrative, whether you need to redesign it completely your workflows, or is your setup mature enough to take an agentic AI system and make it work, right? I think that's where I think the narrative needs to go to become successful.
Thanks, Kapil. Prakash?
Sure, Rishi. The biggest GTM winner in 2027 will be, in my view, will be the company that turns every seller into an AI orchestrated revenue team of one. That company, whoever is coming with that strategy, they're able to successfully implement the strategy. They will be the, in my view, will be the GTM winner for 2027. So that's a quick one on that. Yeah.
Thanks, Prakash. Vinay, your thoughts?
With all the so many numerous solutions coming out and with the plethora of choices, the company which can own that whole orchestrating layer with trust, they are going to stand out being the winners. There are a lot of efforts in that space today. There's nobody there, but finally the person who can be trusted to run the orchestration layer, they are going to be the winners of 2027.
Thanks, Vinay, and thanks everyone for sharing your thoughts. I think a lot of insights in this less than 25 minutes of Power Pack sessions. And I kind of agree. And Vinay, you, I think, concluded pretty well that it really needs to act, organization which really acts like a symphony, right? While there will be multiple agents and humans in the mix, but how the entire symphony will work. And the orchestration layer that you're talking about is basically the end-to-end GTM strategy. Right? That how are you not just laying out the GTM strategy, but also ensuring that you are able to execute it, and then ensure that whatever promises you are making while selling, you are able to execute the value, right? So I think those are the organizations which will eventually come up, and 2027, maybe next Spectra 27, we'll have a nice time frame to review it and check where we stand. So once again, thank you so much, Kapil, Deepak, Vinay, Prakash, for sharing your thoughts. And let's see how this entire GTM strategy evolves. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.